Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls her age. While her friends spent their teenage years experimenting with makeup and dating, she found herself drawn to military history and stories of brave soldiers who fought for their country. Her grandfather, a World War II veteran, had filled her childhood with tales of courage and sacrifice that shaped her dreams of serving in the armed forces. The tattoo on her left shoulder blade was no ordinary piece of body art. It was a detailed black and gray portrait of her grandfather in his military uniform, surrounded by dog tags bearing the names of fallen soldiers from his unit. Below the portrait, elegant script read, "Honor, Courage, Commitment," with dates marking significant battles from the Pacific Theater. Sarah had spent months researching the perfect artist and saved every penny from her part-time job at a local diner to afford this tribute to her hero. When Sarah enlisted in the Marines at 18, she knew she would face challenges as a woman in a male-dominated field. What she didn't expect was the ridicule her meaningful tattoo would attract from some of her fellow Marines. During her first week at Camp Pendleton, she made the mistake of changing her shirt in the common area, revealing the intricate artwork on her back. "Look at this girl trying to play soldier," sneered Corporal Jake Thompson, a stocky recruit from Texas who seemed to take pleasure in making others uncomfortable. "Got herself a pretty picture thinking it makes her tough." Private Mike Rodriguez joined in the mockery, pointing at Sarah's tattoo while laughing loudly. "My little sister has a butterfly tattoo that's probably more intimidating than that old man on your back. You think drawing some dead guy on your skin makes you Marine material?" The harassment didn't stop there. Every day brought new comments and jokes about Sarah's grandpa tattoo from Thompson and his group of followers. They would make exaggerated saluting gestures when she passed by, call her history book instead of her name, and suggest she belonged in a museum rather than the Marines. The psychological warfare was relentless and designed to break her spirit. Sarah's bunkmate, Lisa Chen, tried to offer support during their quiet moments. "Don't let those idiots get to you," she whispered one evening after a particularly brutal day of verbal attacks. "They're just intimidated because you have more heart in your pinky finger than they have in their entire bodies." But the constant barrage of insults was taking its toll. Sarah found herself questioning whether she had made the right choice. She started covering her tattoo even during hot training exercises, wearing long sleeves that left her overheated and uncomfortable. The shame she felt wasn't about the tattoo itself, but about how others perceived something so meaningful to her. During combat training exercises, Thompson and his crew would make jokes about Sarah's grandfather watching over them and suggest that maybe his ghost could help her improve her shooting scores. They nicknamed her Memorial Girl and spread rumors that she only joined the Marines to honor some made-up story about her grandfather. The breaking point came during a particularly intense week of field training. Sarah's unit was participating in a mock combat scenario in the desert, and the stress of the exercise combined with the ongoing harassment pushed her to her emotional limit. When Thompson loudly announced to their drill instructor that Memorial Girl might need her grandpa's ghost to help her navigate, Sarah felt tears of frustration welling up in her eyes. That night, alone in her tent, Sarah considered requesting a transfer or even leaving the Marines altogether. The dream that had sustained her throughout her difficult childhood felt like it was slipping away. She touched the tattoo on her shoulder, remembering the day she got it and how proud her grandfather would have been to see her following in his footsteps. Unknown to Sarah, her grandfather's military record was far more distinguished than she had ever known. The modest man had never spoken about his medals or the lives he had saved during the war. He had simply told her stories about friendship, courage, and doing what was right even when it was difficult. These were the values that had inspired Sarah to serve, and they were the same values being tested every day by the cruel behavior of her fellow Marines. As Sarah struggled with her decision about whether to continue her military service, she had no idea that fate was about to intervene in an unexpected way. A routine inspection by a visiting general would soon change everything and reveal the true significance of the man whose image she carried with pride on her skin. The harassment had gone on for 3 months when word came down that General Patricia Williams would be visiting their base for an inspection. General Williams was a legend in the Marines, the first woman to achieve her rank through combat leadership rather than administrative positions. She had earned her stars leading troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, and her reputation for fairness and integrity was known throughout the military. As Sarah prepared for the general's visit, she couldn't shake the feeling that this inspection would be different from the routine visits they usually endured. Something in the air felt charged with possibility, though she couldn't quite put her finger on what it meant for her future in the Marines. The morning of General Williams's inspection arrived with the usual chaos of a military base preparing for high-ranking visitors. Sarah woke before dawn to ensure her uniform was perfect, her boots polished to a mirror shine, and every detail of her appearance met the strict standards expected during such visits. Despite the months of harassment, she maintained her pride in being a Marine and refused to let Thompson and his followers see her anything less than professional. The inspection began in the barracks, where General Williams moved through the rows of Marines with practiced efficiency. Her sharp eyes missed nothing as she examined uniforms, questioned training procedures, and observed the dynamics between the recruits. Sarah stood at attention, trying to calm her racing heart as the general approached her section. When General Williams reached Sarah's position, she performed a routine inspection of her uniform and equipment. Everything appeared to be proceeding normally until a slight mishap occurred. As Sarah executed a precise movement during the inspection, the collar of her uniform shifted slightly, revealing just a small portion of her tattoo at the base of her neck. Thompson, standing 2 positions away, couldn't resist the opportunity to cause trouble even in front of the general. "Ma'am," he called out with fake concern, "Private Martinez has unauthorized visible tattoos that violate dress code regulations." General Williams paused and turned her attention to Sarah. "Is that correct, Private Martinez?" Sarah's face flushed red with embarrassment and anger. "The tattoo is normally completely covered by my uniform, General. It's positioned on my shoulder blade and should not be visible during normal duties." "I see," General Williams replied calmly. "Would you mind showing me this tattoo that seems to have caused such concern?" The entire barracks fell silent. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she realized she would have to reveal her most personal tribute in front of everyone, including the very people who had tormented her about it for months. With careful movements, she adjusted her uniform to reveal the detailed portrait of her grandfather. General Williams stepped closer to examine the artwork, her expression unreadable. The silence in the room was so complete that Sarah could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She waited for another reprimand, another moment of public humiliation that would add to the months of suffering she had endured. Instead, something unexpected happened. General Williams' composed demeanor shifted, and her eyes widened with recognition as she studied the face in the tattoo. She looked more closely at the uniform details, the medals depicted in the portrait, and the dates inscribed below the image. "Private Martinez," General Williams said quietly, "what was your grandfather's full name and unit?" "Staff Sergeant Eduardo Martinez, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, General," Sarah replied, confused by the question but maintaining her military bearing. A look of profound respect crossed General Williams's face. She stepped back and, to everyone's shock, came to attention and rendered a slow, deliberate salute to Sarah's tattoo. The gesture was so unexpected and powerful that it left the entire room stunned into silence. "Marines," General Williams announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned her rank through blood and sacrifice. You are looking at the granddaughter of one of the bravest men I have ever had the honor of serving alongside." The general's words hit the room like a thunderbolt. Thompson's smug expression evaporated, replaced by confusion and growing dread. The other Marines who had participated in the harassment looked equally bewildered as they tried to process what they were hearing. General Williams continued, her voice filled with emotion that she rarely allowed others to see. "Staff Sergeant Eduardo Martinez saved my life and the lives of 12 other Marines during the Battle of Iwo Jima, when our position was overrun by enemy forces. He single-handedly held off an entire squad of enemy soldiers while we evacuated wounded personnel." Sarah felt her knees go weak. Her grandfather had never told her any of this. She had known he served in World War II and had seen some of his medals, but he had always downplayed his service, saying he was just doing his job like everyone else. "Your grandfather carried 3 wounded Marines to safety under heavy fire," General Williams explained, her gaze fixed on Sarah with deep respect. "He was shot twice during the rescue but refused medical treatment until everyone else was safe. The Medal of Honor he received was just a piece of metal compared to the lives he saved that day." The general turned to address the room full of stunned Marines. "Staff Sergeant Martinez died 2 years ago, but not before he trained an entire generation of young Marines in the values of courage, honor, and commitment. Some of those Marines went on to train me when I was just a frightened recruit trying to prove myself worthy of wearing this uniform." Thompson's face had gone pale. The realization that he had been mocking the memory of a genuine war hero, a Medal of Honor recipient, was beginning to sink in. The other Marines who had participated in the harassment looked equally stricken as they understood the magnitude of their mistake. General Williams walked over to Thompson, her expression hard as granite. "Corporal Thompson, you and your associates will report to my office immediately after this inspection. Your behavior toward Private Martinez has been reported to me by multiple sources, and I am personally disgusted by your conduct." The general's voice rose to address the entire barracks. "Let me be clear to everyone present. The tattoo that some of you have chosen to mock represents more courage and sacrifice than most people will ever understand. Private Martinez carries the image of a true American hero, and anyone who disrespects that memory disrespects everything this uniform stands for." Sarah struggled to hold back tears, but they were no longer tears of shame or frustration. For the first time in months, she felt pride in her decision to serve, and in the legacy she carried forward. The tattoo that had brought her so much pain had suddenly become a source of strength and validation. General Williams returned her attention to Sarah. "Private Martinez, your grandfather would be incredibly proud of the Marine you are becoming. Don't let anyone make you forget that you belong here just as much as anyone else in this room." As the inspection continued, the atmosphere in the barracks had completely changed. The Marines who had witnessed the general's revelation looked at Sarah with new respect, while those who had participated in the harassment appeared deeply ashamed of their actions. The power dynamic that had made Sarah's life miserable for months had been completely reversed in a matter of minutes. The aftermath of General Williams's revelation transformed Sarah's experience at Camp Pendleton in ways she never could have imagined. Within hours of the inspection, news of her grandfather's heroic service had spread throughout the base. Marines who had previously ignored her or joined in the harassment were now approaching her with genuine respect and curiosity about her family's military history. Thompson and his group faced immediate consequences for their behavior. General Williams personally oversaw disciplinary hearings that resulted in demotions, extra duty assignments, and mandatory sensitivity training. Thompson himself was transferred to a different unit, his dreams of advancing in rank severely damaged by his cruel treatment of Sarah. The message sent throughout the base was clear. Harassment and bullying would not be tolerated under any circumstances. In her private meeting with General Williams following the inspection, Sarah learned details about her grandfather's service that brought her to tears. The general shared stories of Eduardo Martinez's leadership during some of the Pacific Theater's most brutal battles, his mentorship of younger Marines, and his unwavering commitment to his fellow soldiers even in the face of overwhelming danger. "Your grandfather never talked about his own heroics," General Williams explained as they sat in her temporary office. "He was always more interested in highlighting the achievements of others. When I was a young lieutenant struggling to earn respect in a male-dominated military, he was one of the few senior Marines who judged me solely on my abilities and character." The general pulled out a worn photograph from her personal files. It showed a group of Marines in combat gear, and she pointed to a young soldier standing next to Eduardo Martinez. "That's me, 25 years ago, during my first deployment. Your grandfather took me under his wing when other Marines questioned whether a woman belonged in combat situations." Sarah studied the photograph, amazed to see this powerful general as a young soldier standing beside her grandfather. The connection between her family's legacy and her own military service suddenly felt much more meaningful and personal. "He told me something I've never forgotten," General Williams continued. "He said that the Marines don't make heroes out of ordinary people. Instead, they reveal the extraordinary courage that was always inside them. That's what happened to you today, Private Martinez. The courage your grandfather saw in you is the same courage everyone else saw when you refused to quit despite months of harassment." Over the following weeks, Sarah's relationship with her fellow Marines underwent a complete transformation. Lisa Chen became not just a supportive bunkmate, but a genuine friend who admired Sarah's strength throughout the ordeal. Other female Marines began seeking Sarah's advice and support, recognizing her as someone who had faced adversity with dignity and perseverance. The male Marines who had previously dismissed or tormented Sarah now treated her with the respect due to someone carrying on a distinguished military legacy. Some approached her privately to apologize for their past behavior, while others simply demonstrated their changed attitudes through their actions and support during training exercises. Sarah's performance in training improved dramatically once she was free from the constant stress of harassment. Her shooting scores increased, her physical fitness assessments reached new highs, and her leadership abilities began to emerge during group exercises. The confidence that had been systematically destroyed by months of bullying was rapidly rebuilt through positive interactions and genuine respect from her peers. During a particularly challenging field exercise 6 months after the inspection, Sarah found herself in a leadership position when their commanding officer was killed in the simulation. Drawing on the values her grandfather had instilled in her and the confidence restored by General Williams' intervention, she successfully led her squad through a complex tactical scenario that earned praise from their instructors. The tattoo that had once been a source of shame and ridicule became a symbol of pride throughout the base. Other Marines began sharing their own family military histories, creating a culture of respect for the sacrifices made by previous generations. Sarah's experience had inadvertently sparked important conversations about bullying, respect, and the true meaning of military service. 1 year after the incident, Sarah received an unexpected phone call from General Williams, who had been following her progress through official reports and informal networks. The general had exciting news. She was recommending Sarah for a special leadership development program that would fast-track her advancement through the ranks. "Your grandfather would be proud of how you've turned this experience into an opportunity to make the Marines better for everyone," General Williams told her during their phone conversation. "You've shown the same character and resilience that made him a legendary Marine." Sarah's success story spread beyond Camp Pendleton, inspiring other young Marines facing similar challenges. She began speaking at recruiting events and leadership seminars, sharing her experience and emphasizing the importance of treating all service members with dignity and respect, regardless of their background or gender. The relationship between Sarah and General Williams evolved into a mentorship that would guide Sarah's entire military career. The general became not just a professional advisor, but a connection to her grandfather's legacy and a role model for what she could achieve through dedication and perseverance. 5 years after that life-changing inspection, Sarah had achieved the rank of sergeant and was leading her own squad of young Marines. The lessons she learned from facing harassment with dignity had made her a more compassionate and effective leader. Her grandfather's tattoo remained a source of strength and inspiration, no longer hidden beneath her uniform, but displayed with pride when regulations permitted. During a ceremony honoring distinguished military families, Sarah was invited to speak about her grandfather's legacy and her own journey in the Marines. As she stood before an audience of service members and their families, she touched the tattoo on her shoulder and spoke with the same quiet strength that had characterized Eduardo Martinez. "My grandfather taught me that true courage isn't the absence of fear," she told the assembled crowd. "It's doing what's right even when you're afraid, standing up for your principles even when it's difficult, and never forgetting that the uniform we wear represents something bigger than ourselves." The transformation from a bullied recruit to an inspiring leader had taken years, but the moment when General Williams recognized her grandfather's image and silenced her tormentors would forever remain the turning point in Sarah's life. It taught her that sometimes our greatest struggles lead to our most important victories, and that the legacy we carry from those who came before us can provide strength we never knew we possessed. Sarah's story became a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of honoring family legacy, and the difference that one person with authority and integrity can make in changing someone's life forever. The tattoo that had once brought her pain had become a symbol of triumph, respect, and the unbreakable bond between generations of Marines who serve with honor, courage, and commitment.